Thank you for sticking around.
Yeah,
Nice you.
We don't either.
no, good second day. Excited about what we were able to do. Moved around a little bit, picked up some picks. Got a bunch of guys we really like, so I'll take whatever questions you got.
Brian, I know that the board is awfully important, but you said Monday that you do take inventory of the needs that you have on your roster. With a new quarterback, how much did you come into the day saying, let's go get him some guys to catch the ball?
Yeah, I think we kind of went into this whole thing, hopeful that we would be able to do that. Obviously today, the tight end class this year is one of the deepest we've seen in a while, and you never know how that's going to work out, when the runs are going to happen. But it just worked out that I think because of the depth of that class, we were able to take two, which was, is a little unusual. But yeah, no, I think we kind of came into the whole weekend kind of wanting to be able to do that. But I think at times you got to be able to stay disciplined to your board and the value of your board and not reach too much. And I think we did a good job of that over the first 2 days.
How would you compare the skill sets of what Musgrave and Kraft give you? Are they similar or maybe a little bit different?
Yeah, I mean, they are similar. They're both, all-around tight ends that can kind of do everything. I mean, they're not pigeonholed into, being kind of, only being able to receiving tight end or a blocking tight end. They can kind of do it all. They both have very good size, very good speed. So I'm excited. I do think both of their best football is ahead of them, for different reasons. But, I think they will complement each other, and they'll be a good fit for our room that we already have.
There's some injury history with both of those guys. How big of a concern was that?
A little bit, not overly concerning to us. I think that's a little bit why they were probably available where they were. We spent some time with both those guys and came away feeling really good about that particular part of it.
How do you feel about, or what do you think about doubling up at a position like that so high in the draft?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I've done it before. I think one of my first drafts here with Ron, I think we took 3 DBs in a row. So I think the third one was the best one of them all. So yeah, no, I think competition is really, really important in a room, and that never bothers me.
Brian, do you think Reed's best spot will be in the slot? And did you have him graded among or maybe even the best return man in the draft?
Yes and yes. I do think he's very good in the slot. I do think because of his speed, he'll be able to play outside as well. He certainly did for Michigan State. And then obviously he's a very good returner. I think those guys that can return like that, obviously what they can do with the ball in their hands translate to what they do, with rack and things like that. So it's another option for us, obviously, which is very important. So, to have multiple guys that can go back there and catch punts.
Brian, when you talk to these guys in the interview process, how much about what they say, how they say it, that kind of stuff, does that matter to you, and how they've gotten here, their path, on top of the football stuff, but how much does that stuff weigh in?
I think it's just another check. So our guys do such a good job during the fall, the summer and the fall, of talking to people that have been around these guys. And when you meet them, part of it is just, does everything that we already know about these guys add up? Is it consistent with what we've heard? And that makes me feel good when it is, because when everything lines up, I think when you have kind of some different things, it makes it harder and you got to do more work. But it's important, to get a good feel for the guy. It's not the end all be all, but you're kind of hoping it just matches what you already know about him.
When the first round ended the way it did, with only one tight end being taken, how much did y'all think about maybe trading up earlier in the second round to get maybe that second tight end off the board, or were you just waiting for it to kind of fall the way it did? Yeah,
I think we were kind of waiting for. We felt good about where our picks were, and just kind of waiting to see how it was going to fall. Our board was strong. After we picked Tucker, there's some guys left we were really excited about. And we kind of explored what it would take to get back into the third round, and then ultimately we didn't do that. But the board's held up pretty strong. It always gets to this when you get to the end of the third and fourth round. That's where you see it the thinnest, and so there's always a little bit of anxiety going through that, because there's good players up there still you'd like to add to your football team. And I think we have the 14th pick tomorrow or something like that. So we'll kind of see how all that transpires. But yeah, no, the board's held up good. So we kind of felt good about sticking. And then obviously when we got in the second round there, moved down a couple times to pick up some picks. So because we just had a bunch of numbers at that point.
What
Does having two potentially dynamic tight ends specifically give you on offense, not just doubling up at a position, but especially at that position?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it a little bit in here before, just how much Matt and his staff is able to, to do that. They like those guys. I think the flexibility of having, multiple tight ends. I really like this whole group now, adding obviously a couple young players that have a lot to prove, but, with Josiah and Tyler coming back and then adding to it, I really like the group now. And it's going to be interesting to see how Matt and his staff use these guys. But I think if you have interchangeable guys, it makes it easier. And I think, these two guys have the potential to be that.
Brian, assuming Jordan's your quarterback for a while, you could have a group of skilled players that are right now first, second year guys that could potentially play together for a while. What do you think that does?
Yeah, that's a little bit of the idea, right? I mean, I think that's important for those guys to grow together. We took some guys last year that I think that have really, did a nice job in their first year. We're excited for their growth. And, so now I think we have a number of good nucleus of guys, pass catchers, to be able to grow with a quarterback. I think that's important. And we'll see how it goes.
Did you accrue all these picks for, I know you didn't do the trade up today, but did you do it for trading up tomorrow, or do you really need all these guys?
You guys know how I feel about picks, right? I'd as many as I can get, but we'll see. I mean, we'll see if there's opportunities to trade up. We certainly will. But at the same time, I'd be very content to stick and just pick. The guys that are signing UDFA guys after the draft, I think they're going to hope that as we go along that they're going to pick some guys at those positions because it makes it a little bit easier for them. But, I think we have a lot of opportunity on our football team right now, and the more swings at the plate that we can have, I think the better.
Tucker and Luke missed chunks of this past year just with injury. When that happens, are you looking at the year before? Are you looking at the combine? What are you using to evaluate?
Yeah, all of it. I think certainly when guys miss significant time in the year before they come out, we'll spend a lot of time going back to 2021, which we did on both players. But at the same time, as they get into the spring and the traits we're looking for in these kind of players becomes very important through the pro days and the workouts and things like that. So, again, it's one of many things as we try to, match everything. And does it all fit, right? Does their play on the field match how they test, and does the psychological reports and the medical and all that, does it all add up? And so there's and every player is different, but it's all that's part of it.
Hey Brian, John Eric said the biggest standout trait with Luke was vertical speed. What would you say is the biggest standout trait with Tucker?
Ooh, I don't know if there's one in particular. Again, I think both those guys are really good all around. I will say Tucker's very good with the ball in his hands after the catch. He was a really good basketball player coming out of high school. He's got really good balance and strength to break tackles and keep himself alive. But I think these guys can do everything that you ask a tight end in the National Football League to do. So, again, they're young. They got a lot to prove. But I like both of the skill sets, and I like both of their work ethics.
You say you can see Jaden being inside, outside. What about the two guys you got coming back with Romeo and Christian? Are those guys you want to cross-train, or are they better on just sticking on the perimeter?
No, I think, as Matt goes about it, I think he wants all these guys to get to a point where they can play all the positions. I think both Romeo and Christian have the kind of speed on the outside that really, take the top off and threaten things. But I think just like you saw last year, they both came inside and did some good things as well. So, I think for me, in a perfect world, you'd have a bunch of all-around guys that could do everything. It doesn't always work that way. But I think, both those guys from last year, along with Samari, really did some good things, showing the ability to do both.
Brian, after you took Musgrave and then you moved down twice, did someone jump up and get somebody? Did you? How did your board kind of stack up at that point? Why did you keep moving back?
Yeah, so we were sitting there with 42 and 45. The board was really, really strong. So we had a lot of conversations about, which picks you might want to move back with, which ones you wanted to stay and pick. And I kind of felt all along that with the 42nd pick that it was going to be hard for me to move off of that, just because I felt there was going to be a really good player there for us to take. But we had so many good numbers that I thought if we could move back and pick up some extra ones, that might make some sense. And that's kind of how it played out.
With the tight ends, are they decent, just watching the college game, were they decent blockers, good blockers, really good blockers? What'd you see?
I think they're both above average blockers. I think the biggest thing in college sometimes is just the willingness to do so, and they both have that. I think both of them, these are pretty big guys, right? I think, obviously Tucker's, I think, 6'5", 260. I think he was 6'04", 6'2", 259 to be exact. And then, Lucas was just under 6'05", 253, if I'm correct. So these guys have the kind of skill set to go on there and do that, and they're both willing blockers, So for all their athletic traits, that kind of toughness and grit was important to us.
For Jordan, now that he's got so many young weapons around him to kind of, as a first-year starter, to shepherd this group and to take the leadership reins, what do you expect from him?
Yeah, I think the expectations for our whole football team are very high, and certainly for Jordan as well. I don't think we're going to put any ceilings on that, right? And hopefully these guys can come in and learn and grow and add to that mix. But yeah, I think I don't want to say expectations are low. I think expectations are high, and we'll kind of see how it goes. But we're excited.